Hello to everybody. Today we have a very good meeting, let's say presentation day of the pre-feasibility study that done by our partners for Tajikistan. So, and before starting, I just want to thank everybody for this great work, especially our partners from government, from Smart City, then our donors from USAID, AKF, University of Central Asia, and it was a good opportunity for us to go deeper on the topic, and I hope the finding that will be presented to us will help initially for the region, IT Park in Khorog, and at the same time it will help for other areas, IT Park establishment as well. So I will give the floor to the Director of Smart City, Mr. Saadi, and okay, Saadi, please.
Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги. Нас слышно хорошо, видно все хорошо.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. Thank you for the arrangement of the event, that you have found the time and dedicated it to this meeting, for the opportunity to participate, and in case you have any questions after my speech, you are welcome to ask them. The whole Smart City team is participating today at the webinar. I am pleased to introduce you the Smart City team, which is participating at today's meeting and discussions of the presentation, which is prepared on IT Park project implementation in Tajikistan, particularly IT Park Dushanbe. The topic of the webinar is dedicated to the establishment of the first technological park on the elaboration of programs and products of IT Park Dushanbe. State Unitary Enterprise Smart City Dushanbe, the executive body of State Authority of Dushanbe City under the support of the Honored Rustam Emomali, the chairperson of Dushanbe City, to establish the first technological park to develop product programs for IT Park Dushanbe, has performed the following activities, which I want to briefly share with you about. According to the decree of the chairperson of Dushanbe City dated July 19, 2021 and February 21, 2022, the communal property buildings of Dushanbe City located in the very center of Dushanbe City has been transferred to the balance of Smart City Dushanbe. Moreover, relevant documents have been duly prepared, land right use certificates and those needed for the construction of the auxiliary facility in the IT Park building. More several units are to be established in the territory of the site of the facilities that could be used by the IT Park residents up to their consideration as an office or for other purposes, depending on the needs of the IT Park Dushanbe and aimed at its development.
В данном участке планируется создание еще несколько блоков зданий для помещений, которые в будущем резиденты этого IT-парка по желанию могут использовать в качестве офиса или же других нужд, которые будут нужны.
Moreover, we would like to express our gratitude to Aga Khan Foundation and its management in Tajikistan for the initiative and willingness to participate in this project and support the strategy development of IT Park Dushanbe jointly with Smart City Dushanbe. Under the Aga Khan Foundation partnership in Tajikistan, with the involvement of the international consultants considering the specificity of Central Asia region and international experience, the IT Park Dushanbe strategy has been developed. Under the initiative of Aga Khan Foundation in Tajikistan and SUE, State Unitary Enterprise Smart City Dushanbe, company ProAct has performed a research partners analysis in the field of information technologies market on the possible directions for IT Park Dushanbe. I would like to say that we have received preliminary information on the work carried out so far. So we have seen presentation. The work is done with high quality level map, with all the information included. The opinion of all the market participants have been taken into consideration, both private and public. Moreover, I would like to thank the team Aga Khan Tajikistan, headed by Mr. Polojon, who have performed not only the analysis of the domestic Tajik market, but also in the neighboring countries of Central Asia. Jointly with the Ministry of Industry and New Technologies of the Republic of Tajikistan, in order to create favorable conditions, incentives and preferences for the activity and subjects of IT park residents, comparative analysis have been performed on tax legislations of the neighboring countries of Central Asia region, like Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and all tax code-related documents have been provided associated with tech park issues in Tajikistan. Relevant projects package of legal and normative documents which have been provided under the mentorship of the Ministry of Industry and New Technologies of Tajikistan is the Law of the Republic of Tajikistan on the Technological Parks in its new edition, the Law of the Republic of Tajikistan on Electronic Document and Electronic Signature, the Law of the Republic of Tajikistan on making changes and amendments to the tax code of the Republic of Tajikistan, and the Decree of the Republic of Tajikistan on the approval of the list of innovation and technological activity initiated by the honored Rustam Emomali, the chairperson of Dushanbe city, along with the decrees of the executive body under the President of the Republic of Tajikistan, are currently being at the stage of their consideration and coordination with the relevant ministries and agencies.
И остались кое-какие нюансы, которые на данный момент рассматриваются Министерством финансов Республики Таджикистан и налоговым комитетом Республики Таджикистан. Коллеги, перевод успевает? Меня слышно?
Smart City team, along with the IT Park Working Group, have achieved certain progress in this direction. We have received support from all the key ministries. There are some details left and are currently being reviewed by the Ministry of Finance of the Republic of Tajikistan and the Tax Committee of the Republic of Tajikistan. Is the translation going? Aren't we too fast? Can you hear me? As for the laws, we have submitted to the government under the support of the administration of the Dushanbe city and under the support of the Ministry of Industry and New Technologies 4 laws overall. Law of the Republic of Tajikistan on Technological Parks in its new edition, the Law of the Republic of Tajikistan on Electronic Document and Electronic Signature, Law of the Republic of Tajikistan on changes and amendments to the tax code of the Republic of Tajikistan, and the Decree of the Republic of Tajikistan on the approval of the list of innovation and technological activities, i.e., after becoming the resident of the IT Park or Techno Park, which is planned to be established by the Ministry of Industry of the Republic of Tajikistan, what is the list of the activities the resident may use? Currently, we can conclude that the whole package of documents we have provided is the auxiliary supporting legal documents in the field of technological activity of the residents of IT Park participants. I would like also to express my confidence that while the seminar, the participants will be able to exchange their opinions and make their proposals that will envisage all the key development aspects of the innovation approach in this specific field. I hope that your recommendations will promote the development of telecommunication activity, market and intellectual property, will assist in the compilation of government decisions in this field, as well as in the field of private sector business development related to IT. I wish you success in your work and all the best. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much for the introduction and giving the overall situation with IT Park. And we know your organization is working hard on that. And let's follow, the presentation, and then in the end we have Q&A session. and both sides can ask a question. So with yours regard, I give the floor to Mr. Luis, President of the Advisory Council of the International Association of Scientific Park, who will give us the overview of science and technology park industry. Mr. Luis, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for having me. I first want to say hello to our colleagues and friends in Tajikistan, because this is a significant day, I would say. We are dealing with a project that, in my view, can be quite crucial for the further economic development of Tajikistan within the frame of the new global knowledge economy. And I think that it is useful and important in moments like this to simply take a little bit distance, look back a little bit, and remember where do all these things that we refer to as science parks, technology parks, areas of innovation, smart cities, and other different names come about. And for the sake of this meeting, I will not enter into establishing the differences between all these different names. There are certain differences, but for the purpose of this meeting, whenever I refer to science parks, I will be referring to the whole constellation of different names that embrace these different yet similar types of initiatives. Now, these whole new projects, which are not really that new anymore, but in the history of economic institutions, they are indeed pretty new, emerged maybe in the 50s, early 60s of that century for one main reason, because something radically new suddenly emerged.
Hello.
Yes, somebody. Hello? No. Good, I will continue then. What is that new thing that emerged? Well, basically a lot of things, but we have a new economy going on. Two pillars define this new economy that emerged relatively slowly, but quite fast at the same time. On the one hand, it was global. On the other hand, it was based on IT technologies, but these are the platforms that enabled an economy that is mainly based on knowledge rather than on matter and materials. This was always the case. Knowledge has been always at the root of development economy, but the way in which it's happening now is radically different. You see, in the former traditional economy, industrial economy, we used raw materials to transform them into something else and then finally becoming products and arriving to the market and enable people to use them, buy them, sell them, trade them, etc. And these raw materials were the basic of the whole thing. So the more iron you use, the less iron there remains. The more oil you consume, the less oil there is left. But all of a sudden, with the knowledge economy, we have a radically new law, because interestingly enough, the more knowledge you consume, the more knowledge there is. Consumption of knowledge generates, in its turn, new knowledge. So here we are in front of a completely overturn of the most classic economic laws, and that entailed another thing, entailed the creation of a whole new generation of companies. All of a sudden, these mainly knowledge-based companies emerged and began to be the leaders of the economic development somehow. And together with these new knowledge companies, we have a new knowledge worker that is characterized by a number of features that make them quite different from the older, let's say, mass industrial worker. We are talking now of people with very high technological skills and technological training, with a clear, different vision about the world than the one their parents and their grandparents have, much more global-minded, people that speak languages, people that are comfortable dealing with people from other cultural backgrounds. This whole thing, which it's easy to define in a few words, but it really goes very deep in its implications, creates a whole new scenario. And people in decision-making positions begin to realize that these new companies and these new markets and these new workers had also, how could it be otherwise, different needs. And that's when we come in, because these people and these kind of companies were not happy enough with the former industrial areas where they would usually be located to perform their job and their duties. They wanted a different environment. They wanted environments populated with their peers, much more in contact with something which is crucial for them, the knowledge sources. And that is mainly universities, research institutions, etc. So all of a sudden, the need of establishing very powerful, functioning and efficient links between wherever the knowledge is produced and wherever the knowledge is to be applied were not only a luxury, but an absolute need. And the former environments, the former industrial areas could not perform this task well, simply because they had not been conceived or designed to that end. And that's when the new concept of Science Park emerges. And of course, being a new thing, operating in a world that is changing at an unbelievable speed, this concept needs to evolve pretty quick too. Otherwise, the risk of becoming obsolete is very high. You see, one of the main problems and the main challenges that we all, wherever we are in the world, have to deal with is actually, well, I was going to say speed, the speed of change, but that's not exactly true because, yes, things are happening at an unbelievable speed. But we can adapt to speed relatively easy. We human species, human creatures can adapt to speed. What it is difficult to adapt to is acceleration, which is, if you allow me, the speed of speed. Because whenever we think that we are about to reach the new goal that we were pursuing, that goal is again farther away because the speed of speed keeps growing. It's psychologically exhausting. I think we all have this feeling of never being able to arrive to where we wanted to arrive. Our competitors seem to be always ahead. Our clients seem to be always ahead in their demands. And it's really overwhelming. This is psychologically so, socially so, but also, of course, because I won't delve into these realms now, economically in terms of economic organizations, companies, institutions, and the like. So science parks and all these things are here to make things easier whenever that's possible to the economic actors, to our businessmen, to our entrepreneurs, to our researchers, to our technicians. They need all the help that we can provide because the competition out there is extremely tough. And that's what parks have been busy with all throughout these years. There are many models. No one can claim that the model they are operating in is the right one. We have learned a lot throughout these decades of having science parks around. And that's why science parks have been evolving into a lot of different things that I cannot enter into details now. One of them is, for example, the IT park that we are discussing for Tajikistan. The expert team organized by IASP with the collaboration of some of our expert friends was asked to begin with to assess whether the idea of creating something fully specialized on a given field of technology, IT technology, was the right approach. We did. We concluded that it is the right approach in the context and the coordinates of the Tajikistan situation. So from now on, the task for our friends in Tajikistan, with the support that we can give, is to develop that model into a good, practical, and successful case. We have an international network at your disposal to further assess new plans and strategies, to assess on the daily making of things whether you are following the right track, whether you are being competitive enough. And to conclude, I will make a final emphasis and remark on the need, and that's clear in your view as well, and that makes me happy, that even if the projects in Tajikistan are, of course, focused mainly on the Tajikistan economy and the Tajikistan market, you can't simply afford not to embark in this project without a clear international perspective, international ambition, and international strategy. Because technology and knowledge have no boundaries. We are operating globally here, regardless of whether we like globalization or not. That's another debate. Globalization is a force that, in my opinion, it can be good, it's here to stay, but it will need a lot of reformation to eliminate some of the problems that it entails. Science parks have been always clearly based on internationalization, and we are here from the International Association of Science and Technology Parks to support you in those endeavors. So I thank you for having trusted IASP and our colleagues to help you in the design of these new tools. I wish you well. We remain at your disposal, and I wish you a very successful webinar. Thank you.
Mr. Luis, thank you very much. Yes, we enjoyed working with you, and there was a lot of things I personally learned from you and your team. So we would like to thank you. And now we give the floor. The partner of ISP is Euro Consulting, and to the president and CEO of Euro Consultant, Dr. Perez. Dr. Perez.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting us and being part of this very challenging project. My colleagues later on will talk about the park itself, the contents and its future and so on. I would like, however, and if Piotr can share my presentation, I would like to talk a little bit about the park can help the regional economy and the regional development, acting as a partner and a major stakeholder and the catalyst of regional economic development. So about the activities that the park can contribute outside of its physical boundaries, and we can see the next slide, Piotr. The park itself is a physical setup. It has a physical outlet, and it has tenants, and the direct impacted entities and regarding their economic development are the tenants, whether they are startups, early stage, even bigger companies which are housed within the parks. However, with the evolution of the technology park era that Louis has mentioned, the parks are not anymore techno-ghettos. They are not made only for those who are tenants, but they are very useful and they are most successful if they interact with the outside the regional environment. And in the regional environment, we have the businesses, the small and the big ones. We have the university, the education system, the human resources, the local authorities, the civic society, and the highest link and the highest interaction a park has with the outside ecosystem, the highest impact it has on the regional development. And in order to make that practical, I took the liberty to give you some examples of initiatives that we designed for 2 regional parks in Armenia, in 2 underdeveloped areas, in Gyurmi and Vaznador, which were industrial sites producing for the Soviet Union, and after the partition, these two areas suffered a lot. But the two parks, actually IT parks, contributed and contribute a lot to the economic development. Let's see the next slide. So I'll give you 4 examples of 4 different initiatives that we designed for these 2 regional parks. The first one is city living labs. The parks acting as coordinators, and we're talking about the GTC and VTC, the Gyurmi and the Vaznador technology parks, working as coordinators for living lab applications. And that is very much linked with a smart city program that you are going to develop. And let's see what exactly is a living lab. Next slide. Living lab is a system of using the various groups and either institutional or human resources outside of the park in the region to make a test of real-life user-centric technologies. And to give you an exact example, let's see the next slide, which is using, for instance, pharmacies and image analysis through a mobile phone for detecting and prevention skin cancer and transferring this data to a basic center, which is checking whether the spill is really a cancerous or potential cancerous or not. So the coordination and the creation of a system of stakeholders like the pharmacies, the users, the citizens visiting the pharmacies, the startup that is in the park, and the coordination of all this system is called the Living Lab. It was used first and was presented in Romania in the 2.0 conference. It is a very typical example of a park coordinating a living lab. Let's see a next case of the park interacting with the outside ecosystem. University entrepreneurship. The creation of entrepreneurship programs by the technology park in cooperation with the universities is another area of interaction with the society and the stakeholders and engaging more people into the activities of innovation. Let's see next slide. So creating training courses by the park management within the universities on entrepreneurship, business planning, creating business plan competitions, creating pre-incubation and sponsorship of selected business plan teams that compete in the business plan competitions of the universities, hackathons for specific interests of the area, like we had in Armenia a hackathon on the subject IT and tourism applications, or environment and local authority problems with environment. You can, the technology park management can run and mobilize the resources outside of the park to bring together the knowledge of the area, the human resources, and the stakeholders that need solution of problems. 2 more examples and I will finish. Next slide, please. Clustering, creation of clusters is an area where the technology parks again can work as coordinators. Next slide, not all the tenants or the potential tenants will be housed in the park. You may have bigger IT companies, you have research institutes, and you have IT academic departments housed somewhere else. You have startups housed within the park. You may have foreign companies establishing their IT department or their R&D department within the park. Creation of a cluster, meaning linking all this towards creation of new knowledge and creation of new products, is another activity of the park, again, outside of its physical borders. Again, we have to think of the management of the technology park as a coordinating mechanism towards innovation and entrepreneurship actions. And the last slide is very much linked with the area. Next, please. related to internationalization. Louis said that, okay, we create and we support the creation of a park that mainly serves the local, the regional, and the national economy, but there is no way that you can close the borders. And on the contrary, it's very beneficiary for a park that has people that speak both Russian and English to link the world with the park with the rest of the world. So creation of networking activities within the country at national level and internationally is another activity of the park with the outside environment. And the last slide, please, where you can see our case with Armenia, where we selected that part of the networking will be done with Russian technology parks like Skolkovo, and some other with European and USA parks. And the benefit of having dual lingual speakers on both on Russian and English is very important for supporting the IT needs of multinationals who can create links with local groups within the IT park in Tajikistan and outsource activities, support creation of joint ventures, or even acquire startups where they have certain knowledge to offer. I would like to thank you for your attention. This is my last slide. And I just wanted to conclude that an IT park is not only about, or STP or technology park is not only about the tenants, it's very much about the surrounding regional economic and socioeconomic environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Perez. A very good presentation. I mean, I learned also some new things for myself. Thank you very much. And now we're giving the floor to Ms. Rada and Mr. Piotr, who will do the presentation on key fund result and recommendation of the IT Park pre-feasibility study. So, Laura, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Pilot. Hello to everybody.
Hello.
I think Piotr is going to put the presentation. Piotr Michalowski from our consultants, and I will be presenting the main findings of this pre-feasibility study for IT parks in Tajikistan. Next slide, please. The study has been commissioned by Aga Khan Foundation and carried out by a consortium of 3 companies, Euro Consultants, TRAO, and IASP, the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovation. Next. The study presents an overview of the national and international context, opportunities, and challenges. And it is focused on the city of Horok in the GBR region of Tajikistan as a potential location of the IT park. For the analysis, we have used primary and secondary sources and carry out surveys and interviews with representatives of Tajik companies, high educational institutions, IT parks managers from Europe and Central Asia. And we have also used the Strategigram, a unique tool developed by IASP to analyze the strategic model of science and technology parks. Next. The current situation in Tajikistan shows the potential impact of the IT park can have, but also shows some challenges, with many Tajiks being unemployed and lacking relevant skills. Furthermore, the country has the joint lowest GDP in Central Asia. However, steps are being taken with the country making progress with the ease of doing business and technology park laws being developed, which could encourage investment in the country and provide high quality work to the country's young population. Next. Further analysis of Tajikistan's workforce showed that less than half are employed, with an average monthly income of $140. This labor force is not evenly spread through the country, with regions having an imbalance of labor supply and demand. While, as already mentioned, many workers lack of professional education and necessary skills. The large university population could solve these issues, but this is not a guarantee, as many young people are not incentivized to work due to the poor salaries. Next. As rationale for the implementation of the establishment IT park, we see that in recent years, the government of Tajikistan has started to place increased importance on science, technology, and innovation. Central to the effort to support innovation in the country is the prospect of digital transformation, with a view to increasing the quality of public service delivery. The development of an IT park in Tajikistan could be an innovative and efficient way to improve the country's regional and international competitiveness, creating favorable conditions for the development and production of competitive IT products and services, promoting them in the domestic and foreign countries, stimulating innovative developments, assisting in mutual integration of scientific, research, educational, and production organizations in order to ensure the continuity of the production chain, and also reducing the migration of the talent. Next. We see that the development of an IT park could support the development also of the overall IT sector in Tajikistan and also in GBR region in particular. We have envisaged that the mission of the IT park would be to drive the improvement of the IT ecosystem and upskilling of resources to support the digital transformation of industry in the city, in Horog, and eventually in Tajikistan. The objectives of the park would be increase local, national, and regional technological independence, secure the access to knowledge and technologies, and in this way create channels for those technologies to reach the marketplace, improve economic competitiveness, attracting investment opportunities and increasing export potential, and stimulate the creation of technology products and services, encouraging research, innovation, and entrepreneurial activities. Next. Piotr, could you jump in the next slide, please? We're going to make a small change here because we are going to start in a general way. When you are planning to start developing in a science park, it is a good idea to have to learn from others that have already done this before. So we wanted to offer to the analysis some best practices. So we have selected 4 European parks: Sofia Tech Park in Bulgaria, Calibri Technopark in Russia, Technology Park Ljubljana in Slovenia, Malaga Tech Park in Spain, and 2 IT parks in Central Asia. Astana Hub in Kazakhstan and High Technology Park in Kyrgyzstan. As main lessons learned from all these parks, I would like to highlight the need to implement a triple helix model, ensuring and enhancing also the collaboration between government, industry, and university, and the park being the key actor responsible for operating the system. I would like to highlight also the importance of providing services to resident companies both type of services, general, such as, for example, meeting rooms or cafeterias, but also added value services related with knowledge, such as intellectual property rights, technology transfer, community building, internationalization. As we have mentioned, Luis, also Paris, we are operating in a global world, and therefore the park cannot be an isolated organization. It is very important for a science and technology park to have visibility and a solid position among the STPs community worldwide. This visibility will then transform into prestige and brand, contributing to parks succeeding in attracting also foreign investment. And finally, related to the infrastructure and also the location, this is something also quite important, is that the managers had to plan the park from the very beginning in order to be able to link the expectation and the content with the planned infrastructure. Pure, could you please go to the first, to the other slide about Central Asia? Okay, here. So as mentioned, we have also analyzed 2 parks in Central Asia region, Astana Hub and High Technology Park. Both of them, they were created with 10 years of difference in 2008 and 2018. And as can we see in the slide, both of them are operating with a triple helix scheme, with a clear governmental support, offer incubation programs for the creation of startups, and consider internationalization an important asset. So again, also this particular emphasis in internationalization. Their markets are different, of course, due to the size of the economic situation and the countries. But for both of them, the internationalization dimension is paramount and has been planned from the very beginning as a strategic objective. They have also the same business model. They charge 1% of companies' incomes to be considered as resident companies and take advantage of the services and benefits that the park offer. And the only big difference between both of them is that the High Technology Park in Tajikistan is a virtual park. It means that they have small facilities for the headquarters and some meeting rooms for resident companies, but the companies are not located in a common physical space, but can be located anywhere in the country. Next, about global trends. Regarding the global trends presented here, we have used, for this analysis, we have used the Strategigram with a database of around 100 parks from 55 countries in the world, and analyze the trends per each of the 7 axes that make up the Strategigram: location, position in the knowledge technology stream, target firms, degree of specialization, target markets, networking, and governance. In general, we can find that the main trends that are worldwide right now is most of them are urban parks. We have passed from greenfield to urban parks. They are working closer to universities and research institutions. They have increased activities in business incubation to create new companies. So the focus is in startups. It doesn't mean that they don't work with mature companies, but a little bit more focused on the creation of new technology-based firms. They are becoming a specialist. So we have seen an increasing number of parks specialized in a limited number of sectors, and it would be this one of Horak, specialized in IT. They are becoming more international themselves, but also supporting the internationalization of the companies. They are interested in carrying out professional networking, and we have also seen the presence of private investments in the creation of STPs is increasing. So we are seeing more private parks and also a public-private partnership model for new parks. Next. Okay, so the study, as mentioned before, has analyzed the opportunities in Central Asia and also in other international markets such as USA and Canada. We have found that Tajikistan is not among the most attractive options to attract foreign investment in Central Asia, and that developing of an IT park in order to compete with other countries would be sufficient. To change this situation, it would be needed. The government should offer tax incentives, invest in digital infrastructure, and offer visa options for external investments. It is also very important to improve the quality of education in both continuous learning professional programs and higher education institutions with trained IT specialists, because we have seen that there is a lack of human capital. And finally, it is also important to implement mechanisms to encourage and reinforce the collaboration between specialists, employers, and users of IT services. There's no, right now, there's not a unifying platform in Tajikistan for this. Next. Regarding the opportunities in United States, in the North America, not United States and Canada, the diplomatic relations between Tajikistan and these two countries have developed strongly since the breakup of the Soviet Union. As a result of this, in the United States, for example, trade is well developed with Tajikistan, and it is expected to grow with implementation of the 2019 and 2025 USA strategy of Central Asia, which aims to encourage investment. In the case of Canada, Canadian authorities also plan to encourage more investment in Tajikistan, with a particular focus on the energy and mineral sector. However, as we can see in the slide, Tajikistan is unknown to many North American companies. The level of English is still poor, and there is a lack of human capital that makes outsourcing quite complicated. The business opportunities with the US and Canada are often based on pre-existing contacts, so such as employers or co-workers and families. So the diaspora in North America could be an asset to IT Park Tajikistan by establishing a strong relationship with organizations that represent their interest in these markets. However, companies must also be motivated to come, no? To have benefits, which also this play that can be played by role that can be played by Tajik embassies, promoting these incentive benefits in other countries. These things will raise the country's profile and create potential opportunities for North American companies, Tajik economy, and IT Park Tajikistan. And next. Therefore, there is a considerable interest in the full digital transformation of the economy. And here we have some international organizations that support this effort. The European Union, the United States Agency for International Development, World Bank, Aga Khan Foundation, Asian Development Bank, United Nations Development Program. Next. We have also analyzed the regulatory framework for tax and incentives to promote the creation and development of IT parks in the country, to find that the legislative norms for the development of IT parks and the IT field are being created, but are not approved yet. and the tax incentives are vitally needed. Since also the current tax incentives are unfavorable compared to nearby countries. We see as possibilities the payment of all taxes should be reconsidered for resident companies. The IT park could be an extraterritorial with incentives available even if companies are not domiciliated in Tajikistan. In the slide, we can see a table comparing the type of taxes in Central Asia, because also we think that it would be good to learn from the experience of other IT parks in the region. Next. And finally, here some recommendations related to tax incentives for a better regulatory framework. There is the necessity for a competent tax and custom policy. It would be good to remove restrictions and monopolization of the possibility of expanding the transport optical network in the country and beyond. Easing taxes and procedures for registering and doing business in IT, enabling social tax benefits for employees to retain the talent, provide custom concession incentives on the import of equipment for the IT sphere, guarantee the ability to control the infrastructure. We are talking about to have a development strategy for the next 5 years, and the optimization of tax benefits to stimulate the development of the digital sphere. And now I will give the floor to Piotr to continue with the presentation.
Thank you very much, Laura. We'll briefly continue with the further findings of our study. We have been mapping stakeholders, and we have been identifying the 5 main groups of stakeholders, meaning the government providing the legal framework, which was already presented, skilled providers responsible for capacity building and supply of IT talent, meaning all levels of education, not necessarily only in universities, but also training courses, some boot camps. So there are many opportunities, and our study was also proposing some solutions in order for the academia to be more integrated and more aware of potential mutual projects and cooperation. Again, mobile companies interested in developing apps and improving connectivity, industry demanding skilled IT experts and interested in outsourcing opportunities. So all the companies, and we have been approaching them, interviewing about their needs and about their demands on IT professionals, and development organizations that want to support startups and development of activities. Constraints and opportunities in Tajikistan. So the survey was showing some chances and some problems that we of course have on the way. So chances to establish the new startups and develop more innovative companies in the framework of Tajikistan. At the same time, the internet is slow, unreliable and costly due to the infrastructure, which is from time to time repeated in many reports that should be reinforced, supported, and the prices for internet should be going down, because this is also preventing a lot of businesses to invest in the country. At the same time, the scope for youth employment, and we have been saying that this is the demography is also very importantly telling us that this is a very young society, the Tajik society. So there is a scope for youth employment, for training and professional development. At the same time, there is a bureaucracy in some processes, and doing business limits development. So we are trying to all the time show not only constraints, but as well opportunities, in order to find the way to just go through all the problems. So assessment of the sectoral niches. So the employment is 88% of surveyed companies employ IT specialists without higher education, and minimum requirements are determined on testing and interviews. We have been having a lot of discussion with the companies, and they are saying also that they are providing themselves the training programs in-house, while there are several shines and shades of such solutions. So the highly qualified specialists are needed in all the sectors, although there is a particular need for, and we have been identifying those 9 niches, like programmers, system admins, project managers, network administrators, full stack developers, custom software developers, big data analysts, sales managers, and specialists with pedagogical skills. And the last one is very important because also it's the training the trainers method. So the multiplying effect. We would really suggest that the skilled professionals with pedagogical skills could be then supporting the development of skills of the others, and then the others could develop further on the skills of the further population. If we continue, Tajikistan should follow the example of neighborhood countries. We have been also having such recommendation from our interlocutors, and should make needed improvements on reinforcing skills and competences, on reinforcing the government and private institutional support, the educational system that was already mentioned, and the internet connectivity, which is one of the main constraints for development of an IT park, which is like inevitably related to good internet connectivity. So the global trends in the IT sector should be enabled and include the ability to work remotely. Also, we have been having a lot of recommendations, pros and cons on the remote work, but it's important to invest in that way of working. The digitalization of banking services as one of another fundamental pillars for the country. And the third element, the development of the fault-tolerant IT infrastructure. So again, we are coming into the elements that the internet is just coming up front as one of the main constraints. So creating the infrastructure would be supporting this development. If we go to future plans, and the analysis of future trends and opportunities has found possibilities in those 5 potential aspects. By infographics, we're also sharing this idea of them, like an increased demand for gadgets, maintenance, and repair specialists, because of the growing need for those in the country, a need for more developers, web designers, and programmers, a requirement for specialized training courses for existing employees, the growth in the e-commerce sector, such as online stores and specialized bots, and the 5th element, the electrification of transport and need for maintenance specialists. So this trend, which is now global, it could also be gaining more and more popularity on mobility, diverse way of mobility, where the electrification would play an important role. So the suitable location for the IT park, we have been suggested to focus on Korok State University and the University of Central Asia campus in Korok. While the 3rd possibility was also by us shown as like 2-in-1. So a new building to be erected, either the Pamir Innovation Hub, which now has relocated to Dushanbe, but it's again being a potential venue for hosting the IT park. So we have been identifying the strengths and weaknesses. So for example, for Korok State University, the accessible location in the center of Korok is a strength, the available parking, the willingness to integrate the IT park, while for the weaknesses, we have named the poor internet connection, the old building, the new campus is in plan to be erected, while this inevitably would take more time, and restricted space for expansion. While for University of Central Asia, there are quality facilities and equipment. There is a unique culture and diversity, professional IT specialists. While it's far from the center, it's 5 kilometers away from Korok State University, with poor transport links, and specialist IT courses are not offered, particularly in that campus. While if we go to the third location, potential one, the new building, which of course, as a first place, I have to mention that it would inevitably force a large investment at the beginning, would of course enable a location that can be chosen, the size that can be tailored to the needs. So we could be thinking of a space that could be already able for upgradability in the future, independence from any university structure, while of course the weaknesses, the unknown ownership status of an existing building or of the erected one, so costly process of the construct, which I already mentioned, and all costs must be covered by the host, while we have been shaping in our study the approach that if the university would be hosting an IP park, it's very important that university is sharing the costs, or in the ideal scenario is offering the space for free for the IT park, especially for the incubation period. And about the phases, I will speak a bit later on. So then we have been also suggesting some IT hubs and spoke models, meaning that the IT park in Korok is not a separate electron, is a part of the network, in which the IT Park Dushanbe, the planned location, would be then strongly strategically connected with IT Park in Korok, while also we are envisioning the satellite hubs in the Jibao region, which could be offering like micro offices, that they are going to be implementing training courses, but also identifying potential talents in the whole region, for the idea that the IT park would not only influence Korok as a city, but will be really spreading the opportunities for the whole Jibao region, and the mentioned boot camps as a very important element. Suggested type of businesses, we have been putting some yes and no's or suggestions, of course, on that. So different types of business process outsourcing, one of the pillars that was identified by almost all of our interviewees as an important strand: the e-commerce and software development, the mobile application and web development, certification targeted supplementary IT education, or those services that demand basic infrastructure, such as basic prototyping. And we have been also excluding as a suggestion for not be starting with those, but of course in further years they might be developed, like more complicated sectors such as interconnected delivery chains, services that require high level of skills, or those that require complex resources such as advanced prototyping. If we quickly go to services, and there is a whole list of potential services that IT Park could offer to its tenants, we have been naming, of course, the ones that are related to cluster development services, to market research studies. So something very important for not only startups, but for SMEs as well, identification of funding opportunities or patent information analysis, and et cetera, et cetera. And on the other part of this table, there are potential revenues that come from those services, because of course we have this ambition to propose the models that are going to be in, of course, some years' time, more self-sustainable on the financial level, while of course, and I will speak a bit later on, we envision for 8-10 years the constant support of like key donors in order to make the full rollout of the park possible. So when we go further on to the phases, we have been identifying 3 main phases, and I'm very pleased that Luis was mentioning today the speed of speed, this acceleration, which is one of our main challenges, how to follow this acceleration. But one disclaimer for the IT park full rollout, I think that has to be said here, that some processes we just cannot speed up. That IT park, and this has been proven by so many alike studies globally, IT park needs around 8 to 10 years of its operational time to have this full capacity, to have a possibility to upgrade and to have its goals, its initial goals satisfied. So some processes, they need time. This is something that we cannot avoid, and we would like to underline it. So for the phase 0, which in our opinion could take 2 years time, it's the establishment of the locations, the setup, the training and incubating programs, the forming links with academia and companies, setting the branding and operational strategies. While after the phase 0, we could go to the phase number 1, which is like a capacity building phase. And we are identifying key features like development and implementation of certified IT capacity building programs, implementation of incubation programs. So firstly, we're shaping those programs, and then we are able to implement them. Then it's networking and branding, and then it's attracting SMEs and startups to join and to relocate to the park. And then the last phase, the full rollout of the park, which could take 4 years or a bit more, it's a hosting and servicing IT companies and startups, further capacity building activities, collaboration with business, academia, government, and other stakeholders, and potential further investment in premises and staffing. And of course, the IT park should assess how the previous phases were implemented and if the goals were satisfactorily achieved. And then some decisions are being able to be taken after this time when this would be understood. If we go to the governance very quickly, we have been proposing this governance model in which we have the supervising committee, we have the experts council, and we have the executive structure. And this is very much also related to the previous information we were giving about the spoke model and about connection between the IT park in Dushanbe and in Korok. The experts council should be also based on representatives of local and external experts, including the international experts, while the supervising committee, representatives of local authorities, AKF Foundation, of course, UCA, Korok State University, etc. While the executive structure, this is a proposed management structure. And here we have been proposing the basic possibilities for all the 3 phases, in which in the phase number 0, we should immediately have, of course, the director, the basic project management office, but immediately, and I want to also underline it, we need to have, in our opinion, a networking and branding consultant that from the phase 0 would be already working on those elements that were mentioned by Luis and Paris, on internationalization, on putting the IT park in Korok into the global context, and not later on, but from the phase 0. When we go to the first phase, the administration should be expanded, so the staffing should be bigger, the contracting on the project management office should be also a bit bigger. So of course it would be related to bigger costs on that, while with having the ambition to locate several companies there, the offer should be also attractive. And of course there should be a management team in order to fulfill all the duties. While in the full rollout, we have been shaping like more and more functions, like financial department accounting should be expanded. The tech transfer and networking, very important service, should be also in place. The incubator management should be expanding, and of course, again, the developers and tenants attraction, they should be hired there. I think that I will skip the part with figures because this was our provisional sketching on potential costs in relation to how much the services could cost per company per year that were listed before, how big wages should be given to those employed and contracted professionals. But I would like to mention that the ambition is to be having like 20 companies and 15 startups in about of 2,000 square meter space in the phase number 2, so in this full rollout. So we would consider that, for example, the mentioned fee of 1% of residents' income should be considered, but after a period of 8 years, when this full rollout would not also be considering the IT park itself, but the companies. They should really feel confident and ready to give this 1% residence fee. And finally, conclusions. We have been trying to wrap up, to sum up all the aspects of our study, because we have been delivering 4 reports, and the final report was a catalyst of that. So a successful IT park in Korok should consider the following. About the core infrastructure, it's a high-speed internet connectivity, incubator space for at least 15 startups, office space for 20 companies as requested and as being set in the ambition of the project champion, Aga Khan Foundation, a cafeteria and social spaces, and the meeting rooms for resident companies that was mentioned before. About the market, service implementation will be gradual, as mentioned on the previous slide. Not all services must be run in-house. So this networking model, hub model, spoke model, this should also be considered. Services are key to marketing the IT park. So incentives for companies to really relocate there. They should feel that there is a benefit. Services should be specialist and generalist. So like very broad offer. A clear plan for services must be in place. So as already mentioned, there should be a phasing in also providing more and more services and incentives. Finally, so overhaul tax benefits to attract businesses. This is also mentioned by almost all the stakeholders we have approached. The tax benefits should be in place. The special tax benefit will also increase salaries. This is very important in order to think about this ecosystem. The benefit could be extra territorial, as mentioned in all our today's presentation. It should be easier to register businesses. Yes, something also mentioned. And lastly, the custom concessions for IT equipment should also be in place. And also there are other international examples on how customs are dealt in order to favor the IT park and its tenants. I would like to really thank you all for your attention, and we are now then looking forward to hear your questions, remarks, suggestions. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. Many good information inside there, and we would like to thank your team, and we give the floor to Q&A session. Please, who has a question, please raise your hand, and that we give the floor to you. If found just the pre-feasibility study, or does AKF plan to assist in finding the opening of Korok IT Park? Maybe I give the floor to AKF CEO, Mr. Kishwar, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think this is a very good question. There was this recommendation that an expectation from Aga Khan Foundation to have a long-term support to the process, and yes, I do confirm that Aga Khan Foundation is committed, and our vision for working on the IT Park is a long-term, because we believe that the IT Park and in general technology park, science park, whatever we call them, we believe that these are solutions to the problems that we have here. And, these are also the type of solutions that will not only stimulate economic growth, but create jobs and also encourage investments in Tajikistan. So the pre-feasibility study here, and you maybe everybody already noticed that it is already covering also the very large part of feasibility study. So it's although we call it pre-feasibility, but thanks to our partners, it is already covering some feasibility kind of parameters and dimensions, and the implementation phases that Piotr here presented, the phase 0, for example, that could be considered as a phase where Aga Khan Foundation, with our partners, we will also look into technical feasibility of some of the preparatory works that were shown there by Piotr also. I'm very thankful to University of Central Asia and USAID, who supported us to fund this pre-feasibility study. And we are ready to support the phase 0, but we are also open for partnering with others to help us to gradually move to phase 1, to phase 2. And I believe that our current partners, the International Association of Science Parks and Areas of Innovation, Euro Consultants, the CRO, and they will be with us because the heads, the leaders of this organization just confirmed it at the beginning of today's webinar. And we are committed from our side as well, but we would like to invite all development agencies in Tajikistan to join us in this strategic endeavor. I'm very thankful to government of Tajikistan, to Minister of Economy and Trade. Special thanks to Smart City and Saudi, to his leadership, and the IT Park Dushanbe, which was just established, because this pre-feasibility study showed that although our aim was to do something in Khorog, but it might make sense to start from Dushanbe. And slowly, after solving those challenges that we addressed here, move to Khorog and other parts of Tajikistan as well. So it is a long-term journey, where we would be really glad to have a partnership with all parts and with everybody who is in this call as well. Thank you, and over.
Thank you very much. And my question is actually to the last presentation that was made. And as far as I understood from the presentation, like based on this calculation that you made, that initial years, the park will not be kind of financially sustainable, but gradually as they generate income, as members of the park become more and they generate income, they can become self-sustainable. And you have also mentioned a very important point about the kind of local government support to this establishment, and then also operation of this center. So So my question is based on your analysis, what specific kind of support the government provides in establishment and also in running of these centers? Thank you.
It's question to Laura or Piotr, yeah? Yeah, whoever.
Can we hear each other? Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes. So I think that Laura, you could complement from your experience of IASP. Although we think that the figures that we have been showing, they are just a kind of a pre-sketching, which is then need to be reinforced and you know, based on the circumstances. Nevertheless, we have been also sharing information that a lot of IT parks, they just cannot be self-sustainable for yes, especially this phase of 8 to 10 years, while the support should be discussed, in our opinion, internally with this already established like a team of promoters of the project. So we have been shaping this governance model, but we think that the phase 0 or like a starting of phase 0 should already be related to a kind of a round table of potential stakeholders that they should be in place, trying to find the possibilities on also, yes, taking responsibilities and taking the financial responsibility on the IT park. So as much as IT park should be, as we are stating, that independent from the structures of maybe universities or government itself. At the same time, it needs support. So, and I think that I will give the floor to other colleagues to complement this. Yeah.
Maybe I could say it's Paris. Based on the experience of the last 50 years, successful parks have 3 main sources of income in the beginning, and finally in their zero balance period, or when they don't need any assistance, 2 sources of income. In the beginning, you need support from a stakeholder, either government or a multinational institution that acts as a benefactor. Then you have income from the tenants for both housing tenants and both supporting tenants. And the third, which is the most important income, is by running programs on behalf of the regional economy. These programs that I presented in the very beginning of this event are usually programs that the management of the park could design, get financing, and implement and get a real income from the project management and implementation of these programs. At the end, when the phase out of initial financing of phase 0 and phase 1 lives away, you have 2 incomes. Income for tenancy and supporting the tenants, and income from, again, running programs. These are the 2 major incomes. Now, if at some point the park is quite successful enough to create its own seed capital mechanism and able to participate with equity in startups, this is a third, more advanced income generation, but this goes beyond the 5 or 6 years of the initial phase. So actually, we have an initial serious support from stakeholders that gradually minimizes and reaching a balance, zero balance and profitable probably level, arriving from the everyday operation inside and outside the park area.
If I may contribute here, Nikos Yalnoudis of Euro Consultants, while drafting the pre-feasibility financial plan for the initial 8 years of operation, what we try to do is, first of all, to present a realistic approach to IT park development, taking into account the inevitable fact that capacity building activities should be in place in order to produce and develop the talents which are necessary at the local level that will then employ IT companies and startups willing to relocate and establish operations in Korog. For that reason, and taking into account the fact that funding is not secure, there is of course interest from AKF and other international donors to support, as well as the government of Tajikistan. What we try to do is to base our hypotheses and assumptions as much as possible with the existing resources, meaning using the university locations and premises to host the initial operations, making best use of the existing local government and infrastructure, talents coming out of the university, etc. For that reason, one would notice that the initial costs are particularly low, and also we tried not to overburden the budget with too much personnel, I would say, but we do consider that it's important to select and pick the right people that would support networking, internationalization, and in general, putting IT Park Korog in the center of such activities. For the full rollout, we consider that some income is feasible based on rates for renting such premises in Tajikistan, and also the provision of services such as the one presented earlier by Dr. Paris and other colleagues. And of course, we do consider that for the sustainability and long-term viability of this operation, it is important to internationalize activities, to find as much international partners as possible, and not to confine activities of the IT park and the IT companies to Tajikistan, but rather look internationally. Thank you.